right, welcome back to Top 5 Vinyl, where we show love to vinyl owners. Today I'm here with Lemu. How you doing, Lemu?
Peace, peace. What's going on, man?
Not too bad. Thanks for being a part of the journey.
Absolutely.
All right, before we get started, just make sure you subscribe and like the video and all that cool YouTube stuff, you know. All right. So Lemu, can you tell me how old you were the first time that you bought a vinyl record?
That I bought a vinyl record. That's a good question. I think it might have been around my freshman year of college.
Hmm.
Um, I think in high school, my dad was a musician back in the '60s and '70s in West Africa, and he played the Congo. So we had a lot of different music in our house.
Hmm.
And he had a lot of records, old school records, a lot of like salsa, bachata, like West African Afrobeat,
Hmm.
um, Liberian Congo music. So we always had vinyl around the house. But I think in high school is when I kind of got the interest, started playing with that vinyl a little bit. I think I was trying to be a DJ at one point, so I was like, let me play my dad's old school record player that's not meant for scratching, try to scratch stuff.
Right.
But I picked up a couple vinyls and listened to them, and I was like, oh, this is dope. Like I might have
Hmm.
heard of some people, but never really listened to their music, because I
Hmm.
was 15, 16, whatever. But around college, a girlfriend of mine at the time got me some turntables for Christmas,
Hmm.
and I started buying vinyl just to play records.
Hmm.
But then I started looking back like old tribe records and like jazz records that I knew were sampled by a favorite hip hop artist,
Hmm.
and that's why I started buying records in a more consistent manner. So around freshman year of college.
Okay. And do you remember the first one that you actually bought?
The first one I bought, I want to say it was a Tribe Called Quest kind of remix album.
Hmm.
I have it here. I didn't bring it right in front of me, but it's a Tribe Called Quest. There's a bunch of remixes for early stuff off of Low End Theory
Okay.
and People's Movement. So that I think was the first one I bought,
Okay.
and then I think right after that was like Pheromone's Internal Affairs,
Good album. Okay.
double sided vinyl. I
Hmm.
was in love with it.
Hmm.
Fall '99. So
Okay. And when you were buying records, did you have like a favorite spot to go to, or was there a favorite spot you had, or it was just like random?
So there were some local joints, but I'll never forget the time I was introduced to this place called Dusty Grooves in Chicago.
Hmm.
I found it online, and it was just it's a dope old school record shop. That was, I won't say old school, but they just had a lot of different types of music, electronica, jazz, hip hop, all of it. And I saw it online, and I'm not gonna say how I acquired it, but I found a way to get some records
Okay.
ordered from there. I'll say
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Such a limitations might
Right.
pass, but still. So I ordered some records from there, and I was like, I really kept up for it. So the first time I went to Chicago around 2004, I made sure I went to the actual physical store and basically spent a whole day looking around and like buying albums and CDs and vinyls when I was there, because I was like, this is the mecca that I found online. So Dusty Grooves is I don't even know if it still exists, but one of my favorite stores I've ever seen,
Mm,
Chicago, Illinois.
okay. And that brings up a question in my head. So when you were maybe there or somewhere else, do you remember like the most amount of records that you walked out of the store with at one time?
Mm. I mean, I rarely bought. I never had money like that back in the day. So it's like, I buy a couple, 2, 3 albums at a time
Mm,
max.
okay.
But I think probably buying things from like Strawberries in
Mm,
Bloomfield Center
hmm.
in Bloomfield, Connecticut is probably
Hmm.
where I bought the most. And like a lot of used record stores or used CD stores. I used to trade in CDs and then rebuy a couple. So that's the way I bought a couple. But I never had a lot of money like that to buy
Hmm.
multiple things at once.
Okay. Okay. And another question for you growing up, like, your dad was heavy into music. Was the record player on or off limits for you?
He was actually surprisingly open. He just was like, go ahead, play with it. Like
Mm,
just listen what you want to do.
okay.
I don't think at that point he wasn't really using it himself much, but we still
Okay.
had records around.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like, go ahead, play the records I used to listen to way
Hmm.
back when that he collected when he was in the '70s, '60s, and '70s when he came to America.
Okay.
So yeah, he never had any problem with that.
All right, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, with that being said, so this is top 5 vinyl, and you have 5 vinyl records in front of you.
Yeah.
I want you to show me your number 5. What album is your number 5 that you have?
So there's every record. There's different reasons why I chose them, right?
Right.
Not just because of the music, but the story behind them. So number
Mm,
5 is an album called DKD Future Rage.
Mm.
And this is an album by two members of a collective called Bugs in the Attic. And Bugs in the Attic was a collective of musicians, producers, instrumentalists from West London, South and West London, in the early 2000s. And they made a lot of, I guess the term would be like Blacktronica right now, or broken beat. Like they were
Okay.
the pioneers of kind of some of the broken beat movement. And two of them came together and did this album, DKD. So Digo and Katie were the two that did this album, and they both dudes grew up in South and West London. Background of parent, one of the two parents might have been from somewhere in Africa. I'm not sure, but mixed backgrounds, right? And I think the music that came out of this collective was unbelievable, 20 years ahead of its time,
Mm.
and what I consider just black, right? When I say
Mm.
black, like global black, it was just influenced by hip hop, by jazz, by garage, by drum and bass, but in a way that was just so soulful that these dudes just put together. And this is one of their Bugs in the Attic was a collective, and each person out of like the 12 dropped different albums, and they used to come together and drop out almost like Wu Tang. Think
Okay.
about like Wu Tang.
Okay.
So like this would be like Ray and Chef,
Mm.
Ray and Ghost
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
first album, just unbelievable stuff, and it's influential to me because I still listen to a lot of Broken Beat and
Okay.
still buy a lot of albums, vinyl specifically from Digo and Katie.
Okay. Is
Yeah,
there any artwork on the back of that?
nothing special. I mean, nothing too special, but like
Okay.
just beautiful, beautiful drum and bass, Blacktronica, Broken Beat pioneers, and you hear a lot of it influencing a lot of like the drill scene was like influenced by what was happening in the early 2000s. That front.
Mm. Okay. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at your number 4.
Number four, so Stolen Moments, Red Hot and Cool.
Mm.
So if you are the people listening might remember, like the Red Hot series was a series that was supporting like not a nonprofit supporting AIDS research and
Mm.
support, and they did a bunch of different albums like Red Hot and Cool, Red Hot in Brazil, Red Hot and Hip Hop, I believe, and they were all really interesting. They brought a lot of different artists together
Mm-hmm.
to make just unbelievable. Some of it was a lot of it was original music, and some of it was like covers of things. So this one, like the Roy Ayers and Daruch Proceed 2 was on here.
Okay.
But the Far Side had a song on here. MC Solar and Ron Carter, Michelle Adega and cello, and Herbie Hancock.
Mm.
Digable Planets, Incognito with Carlene Anderson, Branford Marcellus doing a Love Supreme. So like these albums were just unique in that the '90s it felt like there was a lot of people doing soundtracks. Like soundtracks
Mm-hmm.
was a big thing at one point,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and putting together different genres for soundtracks it felt like that was the lane for soundtracks. Think of like Judgment Night. Remember that? Judgment Night soundtrack. It was like hip hop and rock. So we had like Onyx
Yep.
and Biohazard.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
you had groups like Incognito, or excuse me, Brand New Heavy's doing a brand heavy rhyme experience where they brought in a lot of hip hop cats. So a lot of like interesting experimentation
Mm-hmm.
done on albums like this,
Mm.
all in support of like age research and education. So one is a dope cover. This is
Mm-hmm. It is.
dope vinyl cover.
Mm-hmm.
All the artists I mentioned are dope, and these are a lot of strong jazz and hip hop artists came together to produce amazing music. So I love this one, and there's a Brazilian one where they cover a lot of Brazilian artists
Mm.
that I love also. But I love this cover.
Okay. And is there a year on the back of that? When did this album come out?
Yeah, this came out in '94.
Okay.
Yep, Red Hot Organization, 1994.
Okay.
So yeah, it was right when Do You Want More for the Roots came out. So the Proceed 2, the remix,
Exactly.
is on this Roy Ayers.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna check that out.
Yep.
All right, let's take a look at your number 3.
Number 3, okay. So Donny Hathaway Live.
Mm.
So this is the first vinyl album I remember playing in my house.
Okay.
Like this is my dad's album. So this,
Okay.
this is a 40 plus year old vinyl, probably 45, older than that. I think this album was 79, I believe.
Okay.
Because Donny Hathaway passed in 79. So I think it was like 78 or 79 this came out. And I remember playing it. My dad, one thing I remember, Dad, he was like, it was a shame what happened to that boy Donnie, because he ended up killing himself later. But I remember listening to this and hearing, Jealous Guy and Hey Girl and his version of What's Going On, Marvin's song. And to this day, I still think that's a better version of what's going on than Marvin's.
Mm,
Him just like, I mean, sitting on the piano playing and just letting it fly.
mm,
It's such a soulful album, and he's clearly one of the most renowned R&B singers of all time.
mm-hmm.
But this live album was the one I was like, oh my god, like who is this? Yeah, I knew who, like I'd heard of him, but I didn't. You're not, you're younger. You hear
You know
people,
the
but you don't
name,
listen to them.
right?
When like you get it, you're like,
Mm-hmm.
yo, this is something.
Mm-hmm.
So Donny Hathaway live, his What's Going On version is bananas. And yeah, I think this is the first album I remember playing,
Mm,
at least playing and like it's sticking with me. I
right.
might have done
Okay.
something else before, but this is the first one I was like, yo, we got to do something with this. Yeah.
And I'm curious. I've seen people with live albums. Is there any artwork in the inside? Does it open up at all, or anything in the back?
Yeah, so it does.
Okay.
It does open up. Back it up.
Mm,
You know,
okay.
couple of lyrics. Sorry, there's some little bit of damage from it was in the basement a while, but just the word is out and quotes from people about this album and picture of Donny Hathaway.
Mm. And on the back, anything on the back?
Anything in the back, a picture of the live the concert, the actual
Okay.
concert.
Okay. That seems to be a thing back then. Yep.
I mean, I think thinking about how a lot of the jazz dudes do it, they were proficient enough that they would just be like, "Yo, we're gonna record tonight."
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I'd listen to this. I got some Stevie records where it's live. A lot of jazz albums is like, live at the Blue Note or live at like, the Hartford State, whatever it might be,
Mm-hmm.
because they play what they play, but then each show is different. Every
Exactly.
show is different. So if you just record one session, you could put that out and it
Mm-hmm.
would sell.
Mm-hmm.
I wish more people did that nowadays instead of everything being overly produced. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, yo, if you're a good artist, you're a good musician, you just record everything and
Mm-hmm.
just be like live albums, live
Yeah.
albums. That's how. That's
Yeah.
why Miles Davis has so many albums. There's a bunch from just live him at wherever.
Mm. True. Okay.
Yeah,
So that was your number three.
that
Let's
was my
take a
three.
look at your let's take a look at your number two.
Number two,
Ta. I was actually playing this album, I don't know, a couple weeks ago.
De La Soul, Stakes is High, 1996.
Mm-hmm.
So 96, I'm 15 years old. I'm like, finding my way in hip hop and finding my way in my music. And my cousin got this for me, got the cassette tape for me for my birthday, July 26th.
Mm.
It came out, I think it came out like July 1st, something like early July. And I remember seeing the video for Stakes is High on Rap City all the time. And I was like, yo, this is crazy. Like, I love
Mm-hmm.
that song.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm waiting for the album. It came out. My cousin got it for me. And man, that summer, there was so much coming out that summer, whether it be Nas, It Was Written, this, Outkast. I just remember sitting with this album and being like, yo, this is flames. Like, this
Yeah.
is, I think, and back in the day, my criteria for a good album was like, if it had four songs that I really liked.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of albums with like 20 songs, but it was a lot of garbage and filler.
Right.
Four
Right.
songs that I really liked was my like, all right, this is a good album. And like I
Mm-hmm.
felt like there was like 8 or 9. And I was introduced to this rapper named Mos Def
Yeah.
on Big Brother V.
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, when I heard Sticks is High the first time, the second verse is like, I'm sick of bitches shaking asses. I'm sick of talking about blunts, sick of Versace glasses,
Mm-hmm.
sick of slang, sick of half-ass award shows, sick of name brand clothes.
Mm-hmm.
As a young 15-year-old trying to find my way, figuring out, who I am, what I like that stuck with me so hard. I was like,
Yeah.
yo, F all of this. I'm about to just find my, do my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
So this album really meant a lot to me at that time. And, for until recently, you couldn't get any De La Soul music online.
They just maybe like a year or two ago.
I think it was like last March. Yeah, March is when they got, and then they had the show, and then Dave died like 2 weeks before that happened, which was crazy, which is still crazy. But so this is from the original album, like the original set with all the full samples that they did, because they stopped selling this version. So what's online now, what you can buy now, is different than the old version.
How so?
So like some songs are different. Oh man, I wish
is it like an instrumental thing, or is it just like additional songs?
So some of the samples in the songs are removed.
Oh,
some songs are combined.
Okay.
On this one, there's oh man, I'm forgetting a lot of the details. But I say this to say it's the original album. This version does not exist you can't buy this today. Like you have to
Mm.
go on eBay or something to get this version.
Okay.
Because if you want to buy it or listen to it even on Spotify, it's different.
Mm.
Sonically, it's different. It's missing some things. I think some songs are combined. Like it might be an intro or an interlude instead of like a song, like it was the first time.
Hmm.
But it is different. So I made sure before they came back, I was like, I need to get the original vinyl
Yeah.
because I want to get
Okay.
make sure the OG. So this is I'd get this on eBay. I paid like $200 for it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was,
Jeez.
there aren't that many out there,
Yeah.
for cheap, for kind
Hmm.
of first pressing of
Hmm.
States' album.
In the
Yeah.
back of that album, anything on there?
Just pictures of them in the full track listing.
Okay.
So this is where if you look at the newer one, the
Hmm.
track listing is different
Right. Okay.
on the newer vinyls, and like just the online, the track listing is different. So that's how you know which is the original versus which is the post Tommy Boy situation.
Gotcha. All right. That's cool. All right.
Yeah.
And the grand finale. What do we have for number one?
Grand finale. So this is a unique one. Not many people are up on this one, but this is one of my favorite albums of all time. So it's Astero, Breath from Another.
Hmm.
Album came out in '98, and for me, this is one of the most like breakthrough, amazing, experimental albums of all time. And so I think if you don't know Stara, she's a young woman from Toronto originally, who was in a band with a guy named Doc McKinney.
Okay.
Doc McKinney's gone on to be famous to produce Reese. He produced Reese's first album.
Hmm.
He produced a lot of The Weeknd,
Mm.
Black Eyed Peas. He produced a lot of folks now is produced by Doc McKinney, but this was kind of his first studio album.
Okay.
If you listen to songs like Golden Boys by Reese,
Hmm.
it's clear Golden Boys by Reese was directly either influenced or copied, if you will, from Indigo Boys from Estero. And I think so. The reason I choose this album is that this album felt like a culmination of all the experimentation and interesting things happening in the '90s. So
Mm.
it felt like there's a lot of music that was influenced by hip hop but wasn't trying to be hip hop,
Mm.
right? So like think about like Portishead. Like when that came out, that blew my mind because I'm like, these guys clearly listen to hip hop, but just completely on their own lane, doing their own thing.
Hmm.
But the beats were just tough.
Mm.
It's like,
Mm.
wow, this is what hip hop sounds like to somebody who doesn't have a hip hop background,
Mm.
who's an interesting musician. So things like that, the combination of, and this was, I guess, the genre was always tricky for this album. It was like it could be an R&B, it could be in pop, it could be in trip hop, it could be an
Mm.
experimental. It never. Every time I went to a
Didn't
different
fit a
store,
lane.
it was in a different like section,
Right.
and it's a combination of like hip hop, rock, electronica, all melded in a way that felt completely organic and not trying to be one thing,
Hmm.
but somebody who had a lot of interest in playing different things
Mm.
at different times, and just experimenting and like soulful in a way that like a young kind of naive girl who doesn't know the world is singing. Um, yeah, this is and quick story. So I worked in a movie theater, summer '99, with a friend of mine. I had a massive crush on this one young lady at the theater,
Okay.
and I gave her the CD. I was like, "Yo, you should listen to this." And she came back and was like, "Yeah, I like this one song, Superheroes."
Mm.
And Superheroes was a song that I didn't really listen to that much. I don't know why. You have your favorites. So I went back and listened to it, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is probably one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard."
Mm.
And I haven't talked to her in a long time, but every once in a while I'm like, "Remember Superheroes?" She's like, "Yeah, I love that song."
Mm.
Um, but and if consensus was like that song was kind of game changing for a lot of people. So this album kind of changed how I saw music. It just kind of made me say like, "Oh wow, there's no possibilities. There should be no genres. Like you do what you want." And the special thing about this album
Hmm.
is that it's a
Oh
blue
wow.
vinyl.
That's pretty. Okay.
So the blue vinyl was a limited release back in '98, '99. So there were only, I think, maybe 100 or 200 of these
Mm.
ever. So about 4 or 5 years ago, Astera posted on Instagram. She's like, my mom went into storage and found 10 blue vinyls. Like, and she's kind of sold them off from them. They're all going for $1,000.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
because
Wow.
they're so rare. And
Yeah.
you can see she signed this one for me.
Huh.
Breathe, breathe, inhale, exhale, and
Mm.
her signature right there.
Wow.
So this is my top number one album vinyl ever
Mm.
because it's signed. It's a blue vinyl. And it was just, I had literally 4 or 5 copies of CDs. I come on giving them out and burning them out. But
Right.
this changed my life in 99, 2000, and just kind of still colors the way I look at music now.
Mm,
This is the background.
nice. Okay.
So that's Doc McKinney, who's still, if you look him up now, he's big producer for all of big pop artists. But this was his start,
Mm,
the late '90s.
okay. All right, cool.
Yeah,
Well, Lemu, I want to appreciate you for your time and sharing your top five with me.
absolutely.
Yeah,
It's fun.
man.
I mean, just talking about things that kind of changed the game for me back in the
Hmm.
day, but not
Hmm.
not too many new albums, but like things that just
Mean
were
something.
influential. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, we'll talk soon, man.
All right, boss. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Peace.
All right.